All right, everybody, we're back for Currencey U number 4 grading part 2. Andy, you're still wearing the same stinky clothes that I'm wearing because we just didn't change. We just shut off the video and we started a new one. How about that? We're that lazy. We'll do that for you folks out there. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing
You
fabulous.
look good. You got a new haircut.
I
I didn't
did
notice it
today.
last time I didn't compliment you, but you always look good. Things are going well. This is just a continuation. We went through, if you haven't seen the first video, grading video, Currencey U number 3, we took it all the way down to 70, well, from 70 down to XF40. And we're going to do a little bit of a review at XF40 before we get going down. And we're going to go all the way to the bottom, folks, because it's fun. These are fun notes to see. And Andy, we're talking about the what are we talking about? Do we have an FR number? Is it like 226? Is it the Black Eagle?
Yeah, so Black Eagle series is 226 through 236.
Okay. And again, we're talking large size, showing you large size. It's hard to convey a photo and everything that Andy's going to talk about. Again, introducing Andy. If you don't know our friend, this is my co-host and co-creator of Currencey U. Andy has his own YouTube channel, Andy's Notes, and if you haven't been there, go there. You're going to get a lot of Andy's tidbits there. You're going to get some more here tonight. Great channel to see a lot of notes, and Andy is the buyer for Kearney Coin Center in Nebraska. It's a national dealership. They also sell on Whatnot. They also sell on eBay. Check them out. And one of the best things I could say about Andy and how they sell their notes is that you're going to have it slabbed and you're not going to pay for shipping. It's all going to be that one price. And it's a fair price. I think so. So there's my bit and commercial. Call them a sponsor. I don't care. But great selection of notes to choose from. You should bookmark them. So we left off at XF40, and I forgot to stress in the first video. I did a video, and it was mainly aimed at coin folks looking at Currencey, going visually. And I'm not an expert in any of this, but I came across an XF40 silver certificate and compared it against an XF40 Morgan. And I'm just like, that is a visual difference. I mean, those, just looking at those, it's like the XF40 almost looked like it was uncirculated. It certainly was not. You can see flaws and folds and in it. And this is the difference, really, what I want to point out of the Sheldon scale, the 1 through 70 scale. Again, taking a coin grading scale and then adapting it to Currencey. Not everything matches up when it comes to the grades. So, and that XF40 level is, I think, really a place where you can see the difference. And I'm going to point out that it's a value difference. So if you're a coin person coming over and you pay the price of X or Y, that you're getting a pretty good looking note at an XF40 um, than you are for that coin. And the coin is what it is. I'm not disparaging that. As much as you guys think I don't like coins, I do respect them. All right, with that said, let's get into this a little bit. So we talked about the 40s, Andy. We're now down into the XF Choice 35, right? How is it not a 40?
There's a lot of things that kind of go into play when you're looking at BF35 notes. From a national banknote collector standpoint, I always look at BF35, especially if it's EPQ. We always kind of call that like a gem in disguise, you know. Could have been a banker's wallet piece. It could have been the note that got passed around the meeting room. 35 most generally will have three or more folds. You're not going to see an accordion folded BF35. That's not a thing. You're really looking for a note with 4 or 5 folds that are noticeable, but it has that bright white paper. It's very intact. It just has what we call the look. Like it just looks
It's got
real,
the eye appeal.
has the eye appeal. Um, XF40, not to jump back to that, but I was kind of thinking in my brain about all the reasons a note becomes XF40. And XF40 is really a note grade where a lot of ugly notes end up. And what I mean by that is if you have like a soiled AU55, they net that note down to XF40. If you have a um, maybe a AU58 that's got like a missing corner or some sort of visible flaw. For some reason, there's like XF40. So XF40 is kind of like
Catch
it,
all.
it's
Seems
kind of like a catch-all, and you just don't see that stuff go into VF35s for some odd reason. But VF35, choice VF35 is really saved for nice. I mean, if you went and looked at 1929 $100 national banknotes in VF35, that is a very pleasing grade for $100 small size note. Now, when you apply that same science to an 1899 $1 Black Eagle, you're getting a very pleasing eye appeal note. So you're getting the look of XF for basically VF money. So
okay. I mean, and it's funny because what I really appreciate about having Andy on is that, okay, he's going to give us the real deal. All right. And why I point that out is that he's doing this day in, day out, thousands of notes, different types of notes. And that's where I'm like, well, yeah, he could almost be, well, Andy, I've heard that you could be a grader, not just from you, because Andy's a total narcissist too. Um, anyways, honestly, I've heard that from other people. So with that said, though, it's yeah, I'm trying to find what average Joe is going to go out there on the internet and Google machine and go to PMG, go to PCGS Banknote and look at the grades, right? And they roll
yeah,
them down. PCGS Banknote, in my opinion, does a much better job describing it. But there are differences between what one says and this is it. You go over to PMG and they'll say, okay, a choice very fine 35 can have 4 to 7 light folds. And then you come down into PCGS Banknote, and they're saying 3 or more vertical folds, and blah blah blah. But they're not saying 7. I mean, 7 is like startling. Is it origami note? I don't. What the hell? How did that happen? Anyways, not the conversation.
I guess when you partake in the term fold and you're counting seven, if you had four corners folded, that's four. And if you had, three in the middle, that
There
could
you
be
go.
your seven, and you could still have a very nice example. Personally, hard ink breaks on the face of the note for VF35 to me, especially in the portrait, is a no go unless that note really has good paper body. And that's something a lot of people don't know or look for when they're looking at that type of a note. Um, BF35 really should have a good crackle in the paper. It should have
Okay, so it's still got
real,
that
yeah,
feel, that
real
pop.
feel. Yeah, it has a real good feel to the paper with good texture. And that's kind of why BF30 gets that grade, is because it's a softer paper. It just doesn't not have that same rigidity that a 35 does.
Okay, good. Thank you. And again, I'm going to quick review. Light fold, Andy described it. Give me the wallet thing again for this video too. We said it in the first one. I think that
Um,
that description of the trifold is
the best way to describe a light fold or a bend is everybody's dad or grandpa or uncle or brother or cousin or whomever had the old trifold wallet. If you were to stick a note in that wallet fresh out of the ATM, close that wallet, put it in your pocket, go about your business, pull that note out at the end of the day, it's going to look like a W or an M. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, imagine when you put it in your wallet and you accidentally folded one of the tips of those corners. Now it has one hard fold and three bends. That's sorry, but that's either VF35 or XF40.
I mean, so a hard fold can be considered if I have a bifold wallet and I literally fold it in half. I am not taking the crease with my fingers
Yeah,
yet.
once that
There.
paper is creased and it's broken the fibers and the ink is broken away from it, that is a technical hard fold.
So
So
there's the terminology that I'm looking for. That's a tidbit right there, folks, from light to a fold to a hard.
if you want to understand a hard fold, go get an old baseball card, fold it in half, because that cardboard can't handle it. And the very first thing that happens is the ink falls off it. that is the exact way to describe a hard fold.
It's just the paper is so much thinner, you don't see it right away.
Correct.
I got it. Okay. All right. And by the way, we are spending a little bit more time on these grades because, in my opinion, these grades, I think people, once we get down now, 35 is tough. 40, I really don't want to play around with, to me personally. But once you get to 30 now, I think you can train yourself to be ballpark. And then again, always be conservative if you're looking at a note that's ungraded that you're thinking about it. But the reason I think it applies well is because budget minded, whether I'm buying a 1934 $1 silver certificate, all right, that is a lower cost note in this grade. We all know that. But you know what? Once you get up and collecting, and now you're saying, well, I'm going to buy a $50 Federal Reserve note from Minneapolis, Federal Reserve. That note starts to get spendy really quick, but yet it still has the same grade. So this is where I think these grades play in budgets where you can have a $5,000, $50,000
So,
VF20. Again, looking at the grade, the VF20, those types of notes, you start putting the big boy pants on to go after those
correct.
rare, scare, and popular notes. Bison notes are one of them. Chief notes. We all know those that popularity has added a lot of more value than probably comparatively other notes that are out there. Anyways, I digress, but that's why we're spending more time because you know what? You might be at a show and you're looking at notes and you're like, okay, this might be a 30. Maybe I can get it for a 25. Maybe I can get it for a 20. And you know what? A lot of times with notes, they should be graded. Why, a good question to ask is why isn't it graded? It's been this long and it's not graded. Be careful. You should pay down for that, in my opinion. And I don't know how you feel about that as a dealer, but I know you sell graded notes. So,
I tell people a lot of times there's a reason it's not in plastic if it's
right.
really expensive.
It's
Um,
pay down
going
for it. And
going back to kind of what you're talking about with the grades and the price ranges, and this isn't a value conversation by no means, but some notes you just don't get a choice to be choosy. There's not enough examples for you to be able to buy something that's going to match the rest of your collection. I think we were talking about 1880 $50 legal
yeah.
or silver certs. There's like less than 500 known in all Friedbergs. My other example would be national banknotes. Those were workhorse notes. They went out and they worked hard. If you collect nationals and you think you're gonna outlive the test of time to have a super nice example, the time to buy is the time when you see it. If you've been looking for something for 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 15 years, and you see a VF20 and you think, man, VF25 is really where I want to be. It may not exist. It may never come out. Just buy the note and enjoy it.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about, this is where choice very fine in 35. It's going to have eye appeal left. It can have more additional folds, but still not too distracting to the eye, right? I mean, they're just not
It needs to have good eye appeal. It
good
just
eye appeal.
choice VF35 to me is like the AU of VFs.
Okay. All right.
That's my best way of explaining it.
That's actually, yeah, that puts it in
And
perspective.
as a national banknote collector, I'm ecstatic to buy a 35, whether it be a 192900 or a 1902 plain back or date back. VF35 is like that's the home run grade for a national collector.
Right.
So
And there are 4 levels of VF. So, I mean, that they do give some spread in
yeah,
there.
well, nationals only have 3 grades, Dan.
Well, tell me the grade names. Whatever.
Uh, Yuck, um, wow, and holy shit. So, and there's a price tag attached to each one of those
Each one of
grades.
those grades.
Yeah,
That's a sophisticated grading system.
yeah. Well, that's
Okay.
and
Yeah,
if you talk to any long term national collector, they would be like,
I'd agree.
they'd be like, he nailed it.
Right. All right. So coming down to VF30, I'm okay, what's my main difference from a 35 to a 30? What really, why is it
That
a
that
35?
paper just doesn't have quite that same feel. The paper's a little bit softer. There's a little bit, the inks broke a little bit or rubbed a little bit more. It just doesn't have that fresh, brand new kind of like look to it. I always say a lot of the 30s on the market are just pressed out 25s.
Okay.
So a 30 EPQ is really just a rare grade.
They both mention basically distracting eye appeal, says PCGS banknote, and PMG brings in soiling for the first time in their language that they use for VF30. And that I'm assuming applies to what you're talking about. The note's not as fresh. It's, you're not saying it's limp, but it's just not crispy.
So the soiling portion is mentioned because by this time, a note that's been out there and worked until it's VF, guys, it's picked up some dirt. Imagine where that note's been, especially if it's a large size note. It's been improperly stored. It's been passed through wallets. It could have rode on a train. It could have rode on a horseback. It could have been a wallet for 30 years. You have no idea the travels and the that note's been through. And it's VF. So it's circulated hell of a long time. Those notes circulated clear into the 1930s. They were still using large size clear into the 1930s. Yeah.
Okay, so from again my seat on the couch over here, this from going from 30 to 25 seems to be mentally a price jump. Is that true?
Just depends on the type. I would say large size type, there's probably a significant price jump. National banknotes, you're probably not going to see something to the, it's not going to be a wallet breaker by any means.
Well, and I mean, nationals are almost. I'm not.
It's
It's kind of like throw out
esoteric.
the high and the low, right? We notice we're
Yeah.
not going to talk about nationals a lot. We briefly just mentioned obsoletes. Those are really kind of out of pocket on
Yeah.
overall. And it's like, but yet the same standards are kind of used, except for your yuck, wow, and shit grades.
You have to gauge the note against the market. So if you're in the market to buy a specific note in that grade, you need to do a little bit of due diligence. Get on eBay, look at what's available versus what's sold. Get on, Heritage is free. Anybody can get on Heritage and look through their sold listings, or even what's coming up in the auction. But VF VF grade, it tends to be that the big jump is 30 to 35.
Okay, so and talking about 25, which does seem to be a pretty common grade as far as overall, especially,
Yeah,
it's not,
2025 is like
yeah,
where
yeah.
the majority of the notes hang out at.
And here's where the two companies they're distinguishing them. They're again more distractions, more soiling, more folds, harder folds. They're just more distractions to the eye, no matter what it is. Do you agree with that?
If you took a brand new dollar bill out of your pocket and just wadded it up in your hand and threw it on the table, that's like VF25.
That's a total, very distracting. But
Yeah,
that makes sense because, PCGS banknote, and again, they're just saying, but it's still got a lot of snap left in that paper, and they put snap in a quote on that. So, that a brand new bill would still have snap in the paper, but it would
yeah.
be very distracting.
It it's got to have some rigidity to it. It can't be completely broke down. Again, dirt, minor staining. Some pinholes are acceptable. I would say up to 3, maybe 4, depending on location. You're not going to get to put 4 pinholes in the portrait and be like, no comment, sort of thing.
Oh,
But you can have on a VF25, you can have a couple pinholes
I mean,
because
that whole pinholes thing, because
it drives people nuts, and they
I've
don't.
seen plenty of notes where they don't even mention it, and it's obviously got pinholes.
Yeah,
But pinhole placement, let's talk about that. That makes a difference.
it does big time. So the biggest portion of a note that's visible is probably what we call the white area. That's where there's no design. And a lot of times that's where the pinholes are. So, one or two in the wide area, no, it's not that big of a deal. You start shoving them into the portrait or into the dollar, the dollar amount in the
Mhm.
corners,
The
then
seal.
the design, then people start to squabble a little bit. Um, funny story,
Well,
tidbit.
before you go there, so let me clarify. I mean, if I had a note that had three pinholes that were in the margin design, or
Yeah,
had three pinholes that were two in the face and one obviously in the white, that the last example could grade lower.
yeah.
Okay. I mean,
If
that's cool. It's
it
just
can diminish eye. It really can
right.
affect eye
And
appeal.
that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Eye appeal. Okay, what's your funny story? I'm sorry.
Funny story. Not really a funny story, but it's a true story.
Okay.
Um, they actually used to put pinholes in notes. So there's some terminology that's used in notes, and you'll see it mostly used by PMG. Some of the old PCGS currency slabs said it as well, but it'll say bundle hole
Oh,
and
say that again.
bundle hole.
Bundle, Bundle. Okay.
Yeah, bundle hole. And they used to take a stick pin or a sewing needle and they would take a stack of notes and they would push it all the way through there and they would tie them together with thread so they wouldn't disappear. So bundle hole is a thing. Now you have another condition on VF25 we did not address, but you can also have what's called a spindle hole,
There
where
we
they
go.
used to shove the note onto a spindle. So that's also another comment that you can see. Normally, those I see that mostly on like VF25, VF20 notes and lower. Sometimes the spindle holes in the portrait, they comment it. Sometimes the spindle holes not in the portrait, and they don't comment it. So it's I really feel like that's a greater discretion, like how distracting is this?
Right.
VF25 should be a visually distracting. The note circulated, it survived, what the note is, it still retains 80% of its features as far as design work, ink, et cetera, but
And this is the grade two that I think you start to see a lot more of. Not that you don't see it in the upper grades too, but I think this is the grade VF25 where it's like that's a really bad VF25. But we don't question that it's a VF25. We're just like that's not a good eye appeal. I'm going to keep looking, and you can probably find a better eye appeal. And I think that's what you're talking about with,
yeah.
pinholes or soiling or placement or where the fold is,
Sometimes
where
you,
it's breaking.
yeah, sometimes you just can't be choosy. It just is what it is.
Right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
when we're talking Black Eagles, yeah, you could
Well, if
probably
you're
move
buying
on to find another one that a VF25 that's got better eye appeal. Still a VF25.
229A, you're not getting any. You're not. There's not a lot of
That's
options
it.
to choose from. So
Be happy.
yeah, find out what you can live with and what you can afford, and go after that.
All right. So 25 and now 20. I've heard information out there that 20 is kind of an in-between grade. And
So
obviously it is because it is the break. I mean, I'm being Captain Obvious, but why? I mean, it's either VF or it's not. Why is it kind of a tweener?
split grades like 15, 20. To me, a lot of grading services get that grade wrong. To me, what makes a VF20 is like a VF25 with just a smidge less eye appeal, but a little bit, doesn't have like the same consistency as like a fine 15. So you're looking for a note that's just got nice paper still. It's got a retained portrait. Um, the paper doesn't have really a lot of flop. It's loose, but it's not like it's not a pair of floppy underwear. Okay, because a fine 15 is truly, that's when they become kind of a floppy fish.
Yeah. Well, and that's the 20 seem, but 20 mentally, I think for us collectors, that's a mental, well, it's very fine. I mean, it's a mental grade as opposed to choice, as opposed to a fine. But I mean, in the 20, I'm seeing things like PCGS Banknote and PMG both relate to exactly what you said. I mean, really, still have some decent body, but it's starting to go, right? I mean, that's a VF20. They're talking of there's going to see more crumpling. And here's the thing that's keeping it a VF20 over a 15 that I'm curious if you agree with this. And again, we're about to go to VF15, is that the 20 is not going to have as much wear in the focal points on the note as in portrait, as in seal.
Yeah, correct. It's like a tire that still has just a little bit of tread before it's bald.
Okay. All right.
You
I
know
can
what I
get
mean?
10,000 more miles on it. Right.
Yeah, like if I take it off of the one wheel peel and put it on the front, I might get,
Hmm.
nothing. It's really just we always, so the guys that are into this, a lot of times we'll like say things like it's really a fine 19.
Okay.
Like if you're grading it, one day it's a fine 15, the next day it's a VF20. So
You know what? I'm going to break for that question, Andy. I mean, I mean, we've just gone over a video and almost a half of because we're not going to spend too much at the bottom grade notes because good luck finding a note that's graded that bad. Um, and whether or not you'd want it, except for the extreme rarities, right? If they're in that condition. But I mean, it just, I find it so, we have a 70-point scale and we only use 29 grades. It seems so stupid. And to not have a 19, or maybe the scale goes back, it's a 1 through 50. And you do have these points that you can go, and I can still see where you could still say, hey, it's a 5, 10, 20, 25. I don't know. I don't think that'll ever happen. But because we're all used to this. It is what it is. But there are these tweener notes, and this is where maybe like they have the EPQ PPQ designation, or the coins. What is it? Who has the star on the coin, right? They give it a star. It's like the CAC sticker, right?
yeah,
It's
the
just
eye appeal.
yeah. This is a grade 12. It's just got a little. It could be almost a 15. That to me is
There is a service for that for paper money. There's two people who do it.
yeah. I know.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. I know.
get this, the one guy who does it was the former head finalizer of PC or PMG, and he stickered a note that the seal faded off.
Ooh,
PMG missed it too, though.
no,
1896, $1 educational, no seal at all, none,
no seal at all.
zero, zip.
No.
Got a big gold sticker on it, which means it's got great eye.
Great eye appeal. Sans. Well, maybe it's an error note. I mean, if it
Yeah,
was an error note with a fancy serial number, now you're talking. Sorry
okay.
for don't want to offend any fancy serial folks. Anyways, all right. So now we're touching on the 15, so we'll go down to the very the choice fine 15. Um, thoughts? I mean, this is just I think we kind of covered it with the 20.
One distinguished thing to me about a 15 is the paper's always a little, I call it grayer or browner. Like it's held a lot of dirt. It's worked its life and it's remained intact. And the ink is starting to get fuzzy. The details are starting to be pretty fuzzy, but it's just went out and it's lived its life and it's survived. And that is a fine 15 to a T.
And again, you can find variations of that also with I'm trying to think of uh
It's an unmolested note. It's never been washed or pressed, or it's
right.
just a nice problem free, evenly circulated grayer paper, darker paper,
Yeah.
fuzzy,
I
and
mean,
it's limp. It's
that's
definitely
where
limp.
you start to see that language come
That
in the
that's where
description.
your paper is really, the diminishing of the core of the paper is starting on a downward spiral. Most notes that are under fine 15 are always going to be limper. They get really, almost they almost feel like a rag that you could wash your body with. That's the term rag.
Is that with the smells of?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Um, okay. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's like one of the things, like one of the biggest.
So, something we didn't talk about in any of these grades
What's that?
is you are allowed to have minor edge issues. You can have minor edge splits. You can have minor edge tears. You can have minor missing
Where,
pieces.
where is so when these grades, are you talking 30 and down,
I'm
35?
talking like VF20 and below.
Okay, so
So
20. All right. All right. So we're
you
not.
can, and a lot of these minor issues are in the selvage, which is the white or the
Right.
border area of the note. Now, when a split or a tear enters the design, it should at that point warrant details. But as a note diminishes, it's going to have circulation issues. Part of those issues are tattering. Part of tattering is tears and pieces, and that's just part of its life. Look at the note behind me, fine 12. No,
Yeah, right. I mean, that's why I'm going to throw up a note right here. I mean, I bought this note ungraded and what was it, 3 years ago? It was the 1869 Rainbow $2. And kind of took a flyer on it. And it was, I believed it to be a 15, 12 at worst. And it was a good, as you can, it still got good color to it, but there was almost no body left to it.
mm-hmm.
The note looks better in plastic than it does outside of it, by the way. If you're patient, and there's many times on the common large size notes, similar to the Silver Eagle or the Black Eagle, sorry, you can find, if you're budget wise, you can find these notes that still have a nice blue seal. The
Oh, for
black is
sure.
still, right? I mean, and that's kind of, you don't need to spend a gazillion dollars. And on the other end of the budget, if you are looking at dropping 30 grand for a note to find that one FR number that you need to complete whatever, it's there. All right. And again, choice find 15 is where you're starting to, my understanding is you're losing a lot of rigidity at this point.
Yeah.
You really start to notice it, and you're saying a lot more dirt. A
Yep.
lot more dirt is coming on. And the key focal points are going to be dinged, is what I'm seeing on PCGS. There's going to be a lot more of that going on. So now going into a 12,
Soil
what's
like
your
12
description of
soil
12? Yeah.
soiling will be evident. Um, the fading of the back of the note, the green's just not going to be as bright. Your serial numbers are going to be harder to read, especially on legal tenders where they use red
Right.
inks, or on silver certificates where the blue is to the point now where it's just super dirty, and things are just not as they once were. The seal's still going to be there. The note is really just it's very noticeably different than a fine 15, and you will see some edge issues. You should have edge issues.
Yeah, that's
Well,
both grading companies are they're highlighting those edge issues. You're
yeah,
going to have them.
you are going to have.
Great example. I mean, behind you, that's a straight 12, folks, that's behind Andy. And technically it's a missing piece that hasn't entered the design.
Correct.
What's the difference between a missing piece and that's a frayed edge? I don't know. But PMG grading that note didn't believe that
It also
was.
has, you can't see it, but it also has a minor split on the left and right margin.
And does that come up into the design?
A little bit, yeah.
So they're looking at it, but it's a remainder note, so it's not a real note, according to some people with
But it's
obsoletes.
real.
I know. Well, no, I mean,
It's a real.
there's this stupid argument that if you pick up an obsolete remainder note, well, that wasn't a real banknote.
So the only way that note that's in my photo can survive is somebody took it as a keepsake.
Think
and,
about that, folks.
and
Think
it
about
got
that.
and it got put in their pocket and it traveled. So that note that I'm showing was mainly used for purchases during the Civil War. So you had to be of some clout to be able to issue that note. So somebody ripped it from its it would have came in like a kind of like a checkbook issuing book.
Yeah, right.
Somebody ripped that note out and shoved it in their pocket and was like, and believe it or not, this note walked into a jewelry store, and they had no clue.
Well, I mean,
They,
I'd never seen it. When you showed it, we talked about it, I think in the first
yeah,
video. It's a great, great note. So it's interesting on here that PMG is saying, and I'm going to say clarify for me, they're saying the note must be whole with solid paper to qualify as a fine 12. So
they're saying that all elements of the design
the
must
design,
be the design, yeah,
okay,
because
that's
the whole purpose of selvage around the note is for wear.
to
That's the
protect.
to protect the design. That's why the New England trim is takes away from the eye appeal so much, is because they cut all that off and now the note wore into the design on circulated examples. So
All right, let's keep moving here. Now we're into very good. There's a couple grades of this. This will start picking up the pace a little bit because I realize, a lot of people are trying to avoid these notes and really the notes like the Andy behind me or for me budget wise where I want to get some more scarce rare notes. This is what I'm living in and that's okay, whatever. So what defines a very good 10, Andy? And what really separates the two of a fine 12 and a very good 10?
so to me a VG10 is pretty much similar to a fine 12, except for you've lost a little bit more of the retained artwork on the note. You know, um, you'll see the soiling has that at that point entered what I'm going to call the creases and crevices of the note, and you're going to have a lot of break in the design where it's not super either legible or maybe bright or intact. You're still going to have very similar edge issues and things of that nature. One thing you do see on a lot of VG notes that's acceptable is you will see a few little holes. Um,
Like
but
holes, where holes,
where holes or a spindle hole that,
cross
yeah,
holds, yeah. Okay.
yeah. I've even seen some punch canceled holes before that have just really wore. Um, this is a note that really went out, worked hard,
This
very
is
limp.
this is the car tire that you do need to replace.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's certain notes in VG. They're very budget friendly, and they still have and retain a lot of eye appeal. And you can get some pretty decent notes. I think you're kind of shopping
I mean
for one
that's
yourself.
right. That's where my budget is. And me and Andy were talking before we started filming. I'm looking for a $1 1869 rainbow.
And
And
that note, yeah, that note in VG still has really good rainbow paper color for some unbeknownst reason.
well, and that's the key. That was the
Yeah,
$2 that I put up. That was a 15. I mean, that if I'm going to get a rainbow, I want to see the rainbow, right? I mean, it's kind of getting a red seal when it's not a red seal. It's like you want to see the red seal. Let's pick it up where, and I don't mean that, but I mean going down to 8 because that's where you're going. You're still in the VG area.
yeah.
And I'm seeing words on this is like body is virtually absent. I mean, what is the big difference? And this is probably the last note grade that I even if that I could probably afford. But I mean, you don't want this grade. There's a lot of problems, whether it's edging. Um,
One thing I probably see a lot in VG8s that doesn't get disclosed and they don't comment is tears. It's like a VG10 with an edge tear, or you know what I'm saying. And this is one that will go like down into the design. It'd be like an inch long, and there's no comment on it whatsoever. Minor missing corners, kind of like the corner tips are gone, or they're completely rounded off to the point they're into the design. Um, VG8 to me is a VG10 that's just lacking that eye of that the note body and devices, but still has a lot of its retained features.
So
So
on 8 will you still, I mean, that's the note we're showing. I mean, you can still clearly see the features.
there's a lot of gray areas in that grade.
Like,
What becomes acceptable and what doesn't?
I mean, it's, yeah, right. I can see that. I mean, based on what we've shown, if you're going down from our 12 to the 10 to now the 8, you're really that crackling. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really, once you get to the 8, now you're seeing it, it's
It looks like the skin of an old person.
yes,
It
yes.
does.
That's
Like you can't wash the grease out of it. It's just the crevices are deeper. The fibers are pretty much broken to the point where there's not much holding that note together. But when I say VGA, it's controversial, and you'll see this across all grades. You'll see eights that are intact, and then you'll see eights that are missing chunks, and they still are eights. So
well, that's, and again, the notes that we chose to show, and you say that at this point, these were all straight grade notes, believe it or not. I mean, they're
yeah,
straight grades, and we went for that on purpose, so there would be no. So I mean, yeah, it's just ironic. Okay, so that's an 8, and now we're gonna move a little bit quicker because I don't know how many people are really interested in buying a 6 unless you're a lowball guy. This is, you're looking for bad notes to send in to get graded. But the big difference between, for a 6, Andy, I mean, I'm not seeing a lot between the 8 and a 6, with the exception of like deeper. I mean, I'm looking at the
the
note, and
design just keeps getting less and less and less and less.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
harder like the serial numbers are like, man, what is that, a 6? Is that an 8? What is that?
right. And oh,
Yeah,
thank you for saying that, because now
that's
I'm
what
like
it is.
jumping up to, well,
Yeah,
what's the difference between a 64, 65, 60s, these little nuances that may or may make not make them one or another. It's,
and they go both ways. That's what's
yeah.
wild. So when you get down that low, you're like, can both serial numbers be made out? That's one. Is the seal
Uh,
retained? Those are the seal and the serial numbers retention is really at that point, that's like the grade, you know, like, by looking at it, it's a Black Eagle. Can I make out the serial number in the seals? The seal.
right.
Yeah.
So, okay, with that said, I mean, going down, I mean, we're at 6 and now we're just dropping. Now to me, it's just kind of fun. Um, because just to see a 4, I mean, this was a graded 4. It was in a PCGS currency holder. But these are, I mean, Andy had to get, I think for the last 2 notes, we couldn't find them, out there for me to grab from Heritage or Stacks, but whatever. All of these notes, with the exception of the last 2, all of these images came from Heritage, but the last 2 didn't. And again, you can see, I've got no other better word to say. Once you get down to 4 and 3, decomposition just keeps getting worse. Although this four is actually a pretty good looking note, but I don't know.
It's kind of like setting an orange peel out on the counter. When you first when
Yeah.
you first set it out there, it looks like an orange peel. When
No.
you come back an hour later, it's brown. When you come back another hour later, now it's shriveled. You come back another hour later, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard, musty. Like that's the note just continually will get worse and worse and worse. And by the time you get to good 4, the design is there. You know what the note is. The scroll work is minuscule. The cracks, the crevices, the creases, everything is just riddled with dirt.
So, I mean, you're seeing words in the descriptions from the other, it's funny, PMG doesn't even address these lower grades. They don't even have them on their website. But I'm seeing word like small missing pieces. All right, bigger pieces can now be missing once you get to a 3, and then a fair 2. I mean, again, it's just, I don't know.
A fair 2 should be like 70% of the note.
Is
At,
that, yeah, I mean, on these last couple notes that we've had, I mean, the serial numbers have been legible, but you start to see that in 3. and then two, it's still there, but the two is, I mean, it's just almost
You
comical, you know. Um,
you can't have a complete 100% retained note grade. It has to have missing pieces, missing parts. Um, that's just part of the grade. The note has lived its life.
all right, we're just going to keep moving on because this is kind of like
Yeah,
the 66s and
the
70s.
Twilight Zone.
But talking about pour one, I got, that Andy actually had somebody that had a pour one and oh, it's got a net. I mean, really, really, I mean, PMG was the holder. And I guess it was repaired substantially if you look at the back, and I'll show you the front and back of that. But yeah, this is just, I don't know, it's just fun to see. It's just like, how often do you see a note like this get graded? It's just fun. And because we're going to complete the whole grade, we're going all the way to 70 to 1, man. That's what we do.
Shout out to my friend Raiden for providing the images for the poor one.
That was Raiden. That did that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
that's Raiden.
Yeah. All right.
Raiden actually has a pretty nice typeset of really terrible notes. Like
Well, that's
that's
the thing. And I kind of get that thing too, by the way.
when you see what we see all the time, which is amazing notes constantly, you don't really pay attention to the dogs, and sometimes the dogs need to be loved just as much as the gems. So,
So that last one, let's address it a little bit briefly. I want to finish up. Our video's getting
yeah,
good
no,
length.
we're
It's
good.
okay. But I mean, that last one did have a net, a net crate on it, which cracks me up that a poor one wouldn't. Because damn it, I'm gonna find that straight grade poor one someday. Um, so again, like we asked about PPQ or about PPQ, EPQ, Andy, how affecting the price? If I'm out there and I see a note that is graded, and let's just say it's a 12 and it's got net or details. What am I going to pay for that? Should I pay a 12? Is that still a 12?
I think minor defects hurt the value a little bit. I'll just give you an instance.
And this could be for any grade, by the way. I don't care if it's
Yeah.
50. Let's bring
Um,
it up. Let's bring it up to a 50. AU 50 details.
let's say the note, because Black Eagles, that's not a note you're
That's what we're talking. A common note. We're
but
obviously with your nationals. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but with your nationals or the specialty, the high rare, we get that. Be
yeah,
happy you have
but
it.
like I'm gonna just throw this out there. 1862 $1 legal tender in fine 15. They're super hard and straight grade, and a lot of them have edge issues or missing pieces or some sort of problem. To me, it's based on look and appearance. So that note straight grade is worth like $399.99 in my opinion, like $400. To me, that note with issues is anywhere from $200 to $250, depending on how it looks and how much of the design's retained. People want to see chase on it. They want the features of the note. Now, if that thing's like riddled with stains, tape, it's like $150.
Well, I will
I
say this,
appeal, I appeal is how you gauge value.
but overall, aside from those specialty type notes, Andy, I mean, I think in general, us normal guys are gonna, if you see a net or a detail on I don't know, I mean, the Black Eagle, it's sitting right in front of us. That is a classic note that if it's got gray eye appeal, that's great, but it's a Black Eagle, it's somewhat common.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start out negotiation. If it's a 20, I'm gonna start out at 12 for that price. That seems to be the mentality of collectors. Is that fair?
Everybody wants a deal. Right now, like let's say for a raw note, Fine 12 and VF20 aren't too far apart probably on a raw note. 30
Yeah.
$40 maybe. Now when I first started, a Fine 12 was like $65 and a VF was like 100, 110, so right in there. But But right now it seems like fine 12s are 100 to 120 and VF 20s are 140 to 160 range. So it just kind of depends on the look of the note too. I think I bought a pretty nice group of like fine 12 to VF 20s the other day, and I think I paid like $130 straight through free, because I have to sit down and break it down. Like, well, these are 110, these are 120,
Yeah.
just you have to do the math. So
I mean, all right, I feel I'm going to call you out. I feel like you're being a little squishy.
what?
Saying, well, if I come in and it's a VF20 and it's details, I
Oh,
don't,
that's $100. I'm getting rid of
no,
it.
no, no, not about pricing. And I really, were right. Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Remember, it's shipped and graded. Um, no, but I mean, that's what we are. That's what is, I think the collecting community, at least folks I'm talking to, are like, I don't think I should. I think I should pay a 15 at max if
Yeah,
it's
so like,
VF20 details. And
let's say
so
you have a VF20 details Black Eagle and the details are pinholes. That note regular is like $180 retail shipped. I'm gonna throw it up for $150 shipped.
so you're gonna
That
discount it. It's gonna get discounted.
Oh, absolutely. That's fine. 15 money out the door.
And again, I'm not talking about
No.
the actual. Well, I am talking value, but not price, really. And it's like that's what I was looking for, Eddie. I think you were trying to be too specific. I'm being overall generic. And again, I look at the great example of the $1 1862. It's hard to find those lower grades without details. So, and I found that out. It was just looking at I wanted eye appeal because it's the class.
Yeah.
It's a historic note for me. So, anyways,
And that's why I said being choosy is okay, especially on a note that's common like a Black Eagle.
yeah,
If you just watch, you're going to get exactly what you want for the price that you want. You just need to be patient.
be
I
patient.
think I think collectors, they get over motivated to get it all right away and fill that void. But just slowing down just a little bit and paying attention, and you can really. There's a lot of nice notes out there for very attractive prices.
Yeah. Well,
Really,
that's really it. This concludes our grading. This is
remember, Dan, we're just caretakers for a short while.
That's right. I loved it when well, I don't know if it was you or somebody just renting the notes. It's just a
That's what
lease.
it is.
All it is.
We pay like $1.50 a day for whatever our lifetime is, just to be caretakers.
Folks, that's going to be it for Currency U number 4 grading part 2. Andy, again, I can't thank you enough for doing what you do for the industry, the hobby, the market. Yeah, I understand you're a dealer. I understand you're trying to make money. And you know what? You should be able to. And for all of us out there that are buying notes, don't forget that. If it wasn't for dealers, if it wasn't for folks selling currency, where would we get it? That's the question. Somebody's got to sell it. And I know there are people that overcharge and there's the eBayers and all that stuff, but there are good sellers. And that's what we're trying to do is bring you people that are fair market price and have good service. And that adds up to a lot. And if you're going to say haggle on a $300, $600 note, you're going to haggle over $20. You're in the wrong hobby. You're in the wrong hobby. That
Better
really,
be an better be an obsolete.
yeah, right, right. All right, Andy, again, thank you, folks. We will see you next time. Thanks for checking in. Really appreciate it.